Welcome back to Social Psychology. I'm your professor, Ryan Keith. And in this video, I want to encourage you to reframe a little bit how it is you think about aggression and aggressive behaviors. We want to remember that in social psychology, we use precise terms for everything that we can to make sure that we know what it is we're studying and we know what it is we're talking about. Oftentimes, when I ask students who they think is more aggressive, men or women, or old people or young people, wealthy people or poor people, people from the north or people from the south, I get really quick answers because oftentimes students are thinking of something in particular when they consider aggression. One of my favorite examples, for example, is to ask who students think are more aggressive, men or women. What I tend to find is that even though classes cannot hope to agree on what the correct answer is there, everybody seems to feel like there is a difference. Either men are far more aggressive than women, or women are far more aggressive than men. I know that this is reductive and heteronormative and stuff, but generally speaking, it taps into some of our stereotypes about what men or women are like. And what I want to encourage you to think about in questions like this is not who's more aggressive, but what kinds of aggression do we tend to express? What social psychologists tend to find is that all people are aggressive. Young people, old people, men, women, people from collectivistic or from individualistic backgrounds, we all tend to be aggressive as long as we can agree that aggression just means behavior that's intended to harm other people. Most of us like to imagine that we're not the kind of people who would engage in behavior that's meant to harm others. I mean, I think about the kind of violent behavior that someone like Robert Sapolsky talks about, and that's definitely not what I mean. But that kind of behavior is only one kind of aggression or aggressive behavior that we could talk about. In a class like this, we can break down what kinds of aggression we're talking about, as well as why it is we would engage in this kind of aggression in the first place. So when we talk about what kind of aggression, aggression can be categorized as either direct aggression or indirect or relational aggression. Direct aggression doesn't always mean like violence, but it's aggression that you engage directly with the target of the aggression. So if you have a problem with somebody, you're going to engage them directly. You might yell at them, you might argue with them, you might be violent with them, or you might do something to them. You might slash their tires, right? That's direct aggression. You're doing something to that person. Indirect or relational aggression, you might guess from both of its names, it involves being indirect, not being directly aggressive to that person, or using relationships and social power against that person. When we look at differences between men and women, or differences between individualistic and collectivistic societies, we tend to find that men, as well as more individualistic people, are more likely to use direct aggression, whereas women or people from collectivistic cultures are more likely to use indirect or relational aggression. Now, why might this be? One of the more biological, evolutionary, and problematic explanations is that men are simply bigger and stronger and are meant for fighting, while women are small and weak and delicate and meant for growing babies. So men can look out for themselves, whereas women have to rely on what? Relationships. In reality, this doesn't seem to be the case. What really seems to be the case is that in our present culture, men are not just allowed to engage in direct aggression, but we are rewarded for it. Men in particular who are boxers and kickboxers and football players and soccer players, like men are rewarded for this stuff. Not to say that there are no successful female athletes or that you've never known a woman who gets in a fight, but for the most part, men tend to be rewarded for overt signs of aggression and violence, whereas women tend to be punished for these things. Now, if you've ever been in a situation where you're not allowed to engage in direct aggression, you know that those feelings don't just go away because they're not okay. You start thinking of other ways to express that aggression. Maybe you spread rumors about the person. Maybe you say nasty things behind their back. Maybe you express doubt or concern about them to someone else. I mean, I would never say anything bad about one of my coworkers, but I might express concern that maybe something's going on, that they're not at their best because something's going on outside of the home. You find a way that without being directly aggressive, you can still talk badly about them, right? And in this way, we can use social power against somebody. Social media has given us a ton of tools. for using social situations and relationships and social pressure against people. And people who tend to engage in direct aggression and violence and ignore relational kinds of aggression, again, mostly men and people from individualistic cultures, are more likely to be dismissive of relational aggression, the kind that gets used in bullying, both cyberbullying and in-person bullying, as being not real kinds of harm and aggression. To say, how weak must a person be for them to allow their feelings to get hurt, right? Allow someone else to hurt their feelings. When in fact, we know that these kinds of aggression do enact real harm. So when we talk about what kinds of aggression, it's not about whether somebody is or isn't aggressive. It's about whether they use direct or relational aggression. At the same time, we can talk not just about what kinds of aggression we're dealing with, but also the motivation behind the aggression. Oftentimes, when we talk about something like violence, this most direct kind of aggression, we're relating it to hostile aggression. Hostile aggression means aggression for aggression's sake. Really, your only end goal is to express these hostile feelings towards somebody else. This is in contrast to instrumental aggression. Instrumental aggression, you might guess, has to do with the aggression being an instrument that you're using to get something else. So instrumental aggression can be direct or relational, the same way that hostile aggression can be direct or relational. But instrumental aggression means that you might be doing something to hurt someone else, but not because you really want to hurt them, but because it'll help you get something else. Bad mouthing one of your coworkers so that you can get their shift or their job. Robbing someone so that you can take their stuff. You don't really want to hurt the person just to hurt them. You want to get something out of it. So I know that this is a relatively short video, but again, I just wanted to help clarify these four terms: that we've got direct and relational aggression, which is kind of like what kind of aggression we're engaging in, and then hostile or instrumental aggression. Hostile aggression means aggression for aggression's sake, and instrumental aggression means you're trying to get something else out of it. As we continue to talk about other kinds of aggression, why people do this stuff, and reasons for why we are our worst selves, you can continue to think about what kinds of aggression we're talking about and why it is. So if you've got more questions about aggression, about why we're aggressive and why we're not, and what kinds of aggression we're likely to engage in our current climate, feel free to reach out to me during office hours. You can talk to me at officehours.page.link/meet, or you can text or call me pretty much anytime at 352-327-8259. Thanks a lot, and I'll look forward to talking to you more about aggression and other stuff.